Great, we're live. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Rafael, how's it going?
All good. How's it going there?
Good, good. So I believe everybody can see us
Yeah,
finally.
we have 27 viewers already.
Great, great. Well, let me welcome everybody. My name is Andrew Delmenhorst. I am the owner and managing director of Pygmy Elephant. With me is Rafael. He is our marketing manager, and he's the one that is responsible for all of the cool branding that you will see on our website, and most of the marketing material and handbooks that we've created. So today we're going to have a Chatinar. We called it a Chatinar because we wanted to keep it a little more informal than a webinar. Today we're going to discuss first some overview about the TMB. That'll be about 30 minutes. And then after that, we have some guests, some clients, Wes and Dar Rollins from North Carolina. We're going to ask them a few questions, and they'll talk about their experience with us. And then lastly, we're going to answer all your questions that you've been texting us on the Facebook Live group. So I'm super excited about this. This is the first one we've done. Rafael's been working really hard to get this all set up, figure out all the technology behind it. So I think it's going to go well. Yeah, let's get started. So the first thing that's going to happen is Rafael's going to ask me some questions. We're just going to have a discussion about the TMB. So,
right, Drew.
Great.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning, right? So
Yeah.
what is the Tour du Mont Blanc?
So the Tour du Mont Blanc, I'm guessing most people are pretty familiar with it, being the fact that they have joined a Facebook group called the Tour du Mont Blanc. But just as an overview, it is a 107 or 160 kilometer hike around the Mont Blanc Massif. You pass through 3 different countries, France, Switzerland, and Italy. You generally start in Chamonix, Les Souches, one of those 2 locations, although you could start anywhere on the trail. Before we go any further, I forgot to kind of give an overview about the company ourselves. So let me just take a second to do that. So we are an adventure travel agency. We specialize in self-guided hikes. So we have hikes all over the world. We also do the Chamonix to Zermatt Haute route. We do the Camino de Santiago. We also do the West Highland Way and the Great Glen Way in the UK. And then we do a lot in Patagonia as well, the W Trek, O Trek, and some hikes in El Chaltén. We've been in business since 2015. We're licensed to sell travel in 48 states. We're members of the Ecotourism Society and the Adventure Travel Trade Association. Rafael is located in Germany, so we have him full-time over there, myself here and one other associate, and then we have local partners across the globe. So we have people that we work with very, very closely in all of the regions. So sorry for forgetting that before, but just wanted to give an overview of who we are and why we are experts in the TMB. I've hiked it myself 3 times. Rafael has also hiked it, and he's spent 2 summers in Chamonix helping people as they hike and answering any questions and customer service issues that need to be taken care of. He's been our boots on the ground there. So sorry for the deviation, but I think it's important that you know who we are as well.
Great. Okay, let me just see who's with us already. So we have Lian, we have Eva Lee, Swati. They're sending questions already. We'll get to you just after we finish our conversation.
It's important to know who we are.
Cool. So many questions I see on a group is regarding difficulty, because some people, they don't know what to expect in the Alps, especially given the geography of the area and so on. So Drew, how difficult it is, which sections people should be careful with, or sections with exposure and so on, snow, bridges, etc.
So that's a good question. The tour is normally broken into 11 stages. One of the key determinants also about how challenging the trek is how many days you take to do it. With an 11-stage trek, that you average about 10 miles a day, but it's not really the mileage that's the difficulty, it's the elevation gain and loss. So you're talking a lot of days, 3,000, 4,000 feet up, and the same down. So, that's one thing to consider. You want to have good knees, or you want to be prepared to have a little bit of an achy knee at the end of the day. But hiking poles definitely help. There are sections of exposure, but they're very minimal. There's a ladder section, which a lot of people have a little bit of apprehension on, and then they go do it, and they kick its butt, and they're pretty excited about it. There are a few places where you have metal chains and some metal rungs that are actually hammered into the stone, and they're there to, help with safety. But in general, it's not terribly exposed. One thing should be said, though, that when you start hiking early in the season, mid-June, especially early June, for sure, there's going to be a lot of snow on the trail. So with snow, you need to be confident. You should be wearing micro spikes. Something in the U.S. that we have is called Catula's micro spikes. They work very, very well. And that's important because, with steeper slopes and snow, and especially if it's froze the night before, you get a very hard ice on top of the snow, that could be dangerous. So having the micro spikes is super important. There are a lot of public transport options in the area. There are buses and cable cars and trains and things like that. So for people that want to skip a few days or take a day off, they do have options in most locations. I would say, though, there are a few days where it's very difficult to use the public transport, and it's better that you're going to use a taxi. And taxis can be expensive, $200 or $300 if you're crossing some borders. So there's most stages. I would say 7 of the stages are pretty easy with public transport, but after that, it gets a little bit more difficult. One thing I also want to mention is the nice thing about it is that you have a warm bed and hot showers in almost all locations. You don't need to carry a tent. So for backpackers from the U.S. that are used to lugging around, 20, 30 pounds, you don't need to do that. There's baggage transfers that we can include in the tour as well. So it's really one of the most comfortable treks possible, with also having, just an amazing scenery the whole time. So that's kind of, I would say, the challenge in a nutshell, from my opinion.
Right. So regarding exposure, you just mentioned that the first stage, there's also another part near Refuge de la Croix that is also tricky when the weather is not really going well, right?
Yeah. So if we want to talk about particulars, above Chamonix, from Argentière or Trèlechamp all the way up to Plan Praz, that's where the ladders are. So there's some exposure. Then on the next stage, from Plan Praz to Les Souches, there's a little bit of exposure as you go back around the back of the mountain. During the summer, you can usually take a front access trail that goes directly from Plan Praz to La Brabant if you don't want to deal with the snow and steep pitches on the back. And then there's also a section that can get a little tricky near Col de la Croix de Bonham. That area is always snowy. That area has some places with some ice bridges early in the season that you need to be careful on. But when it's not snowy, that area is not extremely difficult. But the snow makes that area difficult. Another area that snow can be a problem is the area above Cabin du Combal, or between Cabin du Combal and Courmayeur. So there's the high route, which is the traditional TMB route that early in the season has a lot of snow bridges, and you really have to be careful. And that goes actually in Italy overall. There's quite a bit of river passages or going over rivers that can be a little sketchy early in the season. So those are the sections that I would say you should be the most careful on when you're hiking early in the season.
Right. Okay, so the TMB goes through 3 countries. So the landscape kind of changes depending on the area you are. And right. So regarding geographical aspects, Drew, for example, the rocky areas or rugged terrain and so on, can you highlight some of the parts that people might, struggle a little bit with scrambling and so on?
Well, so if you're going to do any of the variants, especially a Fenêtre d'Arpet, that's an area where you have some scrambling. You have quite big boulders, and that can be a little bit sketchy early in the season as well. But that's on the alternate route. So the main route over Alpes Bovines, there's not very much scrambling necessary, and overall, there's really not on the traditional TMB any scrambling that's necessary.
Right. So the official alternate routes are there's one in Les Ouches to Le Contamine, another one from Le Fouche de Croix to Le Motet, and then the Fenêtre d'Arpet in Champé, right? So are they recommended when, for example, there's bad weather or snow? What are the problems there?
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. I mean, there's high route variants that you could take that you shouldn't take when the weather's bad, and even some of the regular TMB, there are low route variants that you can take off the main route in case there's bad weather or in case there's a lot of snow on the ground. So there are some variants that are low routes as well that you say, okay, if there's bad weather, we take that one.
Right. Let's see who's with us right now. Tanya, Courtney, Hillary, Shelby, thank you for joining. We'll do your questions at the end. Okay, Drew, next one. Regarding the food, what are the differences there that you saw when you were there last time?
The food overall is quite good. At the huts, you're going to have three course meals. You're going to usually have a starter and a main course and usually a dessert as well. They cater to a lot of different needs. So even now, gluten-free, there's a lot of places that will accommodate that. Certainly vegetarian. Vegan is possible, but it's difficult. I mean, this is the land of cheese and sausage as well. So, I mean, they do have options for people. So I think that's important to note. One of the places that I like the best, it has really good food, is Chalet Gay Soleil. That's in Lake Contamine. I think their food is super good. But think about really hearty meals. So lots of stews and fondues and things like that, just to pack on the calories. What I will say is the breakfasts are nothing to write home about, really. Some places it's like coffee and some bread and maybe some cheese. So if you want a big breakfast, definitely take some food with you. As far as the food on the trail, you can either get a packed lunch from the hut or the hotel that you're staying at, or there are many grocery stores along the way, and you generally don't have to bring a lot of food. You can stock up at various locations in all the valleys. So the valleys are Chamonix, Les Souches, Courmayeur, La Foulée, Champé, all of those places, Argentière, all of those places will have places to get food at a grocery store. They also have ATMs. But one thing to note about the ATMs, there's no ATM between Lake Contamine and Courmayeur. So if you want to have a beer at one of those mountain huts and you don't have cash on you, that becomes sometimes problematic. Most of the places will take credit cards, but you should have some cash on you, especially if you're going to go to like one of these little places on the trail. That's good to have cash.
Right. So you just mentioned the food and how the accommodation prepares them, etc. So what are the different types of accommodation people will find on the route, that they can get an easy reservation and so on?
Yeah, so I kind of break them down into three categories. So the first are the mountain huts, and these are kind of the traditional places that hikers and mountaineers. I mean, these mountain huts are also not only for hikers. There's people that are climbing some stuff in the area, and they're real hardcore mountaineers. So first and foremost, those refuges are there for people to take refuge while they're doing the hikes or their climbs. So they vary in quality from the very, very rustic with no private rooms, large toits of 6 to 20 to 30 people, some sleeping really close to each other, which can be a little weird if you haven't had that experience in the past. But a lot of them also have private rooms and even in-suite showers. So it's kind of cool that you can be in the middle of nowhere and, at 8,000 feet and you get a private room, a private shower, glass of wine, whatever you want at the end of the day. So I think that's one of the cool things about the mountain huts, but they're not for everyone. And another good thing is that they have hotels and gites and B&Bs. So the hotels, in Courmayeur and Chamonix, you can stay at a 5-star hotel. We have clients that do that. We have 4-star hotels and 3-star hotels. And then you have also 3-star and 2-star hotels along the trail. And then finally you have things called gites. And gites are kind of like B&Bs, somewhere in between a hotel and a hut. Think about Guy Bon Abri is a good example. Guy Lerche. So these are kind of somewhere in between the two. Very much homey places that the caretaker sometimes lives there, or is there for the entire summer.
Right. There's also this particular positive thing about the huts as well, because you have a more intimate interpersonal connection, let's say, towards between the owner, sometimes with the clients as well. It's a pretty warm relationship. Okay, so Drew, when to go? So when does the season starts? What are the differences between seasons?
Well, I mean, there's no official start date for the TMB, but we generally don't like to have anybody go before the June 20th, June 15th. That's June 15th is pushing it. So June 20th is generally when we start, but we like to go, especially if you don't have experience in the snow, we like to say, okay, maybe push it to July. But you're going to have to start seeing people on the trail by at least mid-June. But the thing is, it depends on how cold the winter's been and how warm the spring is. So if you have a very heavy snowfall in the winter and a very cool spring, then the snow can last at elevation, above 2,000 meters, into July. So one thing I forgot to mention is the elevation. So you're at mid-mountain. You're not above 8,500 feet. So you're going from basically 5,000 to 8,500 feet through the valleys and up through the passes, or the cols, as they're called there.
Right. Regarding the weather, what is it like?
I didn't answer the end of the question. It goes until the end of September. Sorry, the middle of September. So basically, the middle of June to the middle of September is when it's hike. Most of the huts will close down around September 15th, and then a lot of the cable cars will start shutting down around the 15th and the 16th of September as well. One other thing to note is that the Ultra TMB, the UTMB, the Ultra Marathon, where people are running around the entire massive in 24 hours, that goes on in the last weekend in August. So if you want to go during that time, the trails are going to be busy, and prices in Chamonix and Courmayeur are going to be 50% to 100% more expensive.
Right. There's one detail about the accommodation that I forgot to mention. Maybe you can say it better than me.
Sure.
Regarding the camaraderie, what are the main differences between a hut and a hotel and a gîte, basically?
So, I mean, some people say that the camaraderie is better in the huts because everybody's hiking, but in a lot of these hotels, it's also mainly hikers too. So you still meet a lot of people on the trail, and you still get to see the same people, especially if you're going counterclockwise, you're going to be seeing a lot of the same people. Generally, people are going in the 8 to 11 stage range. So that's a cool thing about it. I like it. It's not exactly like the Camino de Santiago, which there's a very high amount of camaraderie on the Camino, but it's still more so than a lot of other hikes. Not the same as the AT probably, but the AT is, who has 95 days or however long it takes to do the AT. So I think it's really really good in terms of camaraderie you'll have with other hikers.
Cool. Weather. What can we talk about the weather? What can we say?
So I could say that you should be able to dress for all 4 seasons. So in the valleys, you're going to have 80, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and 20 to 30, maybe even 35 degrees Celsius. So you want to have a base layer that's non-cotton because cotton tends to pick up a lot of moisture. You want to have a mid-layer fleece, puffy jacket as well, I would say. And then, a rain shell top, something that's nice and water resistant. In terms of when you're at the colds, it can be colder. It can be, in the 30s Fahrenheit to 40s Fahrenheit. Not so normal, but it can. It can snow. Freak snowstorms do occur in the middle of the summer. So you really do have quite a gamut of weather. And so the best idea is just to pack for all seasons. In terms of precipitation, sometimes, it's fairly common that thunderstorms roll in around 2 to 4 in the afternoon in the mountains. So I always tell people to start early. get done hiking before 2 or 3 in the afternoon. That'll save you a lot of problems with rain. But rainstorms are frequent in the afternoon, and then they go away pretty quickly too. Is that your experience too, Rafael, when you were living in Chamonix, that they'd have a lot of thunderstorms in the afternoon?
Yes, kind of, yeah. Especially in late July, beginning of August, then you have more storms there. And also something important to mention is that the TMB goes through 5 to 6 valleys, and each of these valleys sometimes they have these microclimates. So maybe if you're going over a saddle, you're gonna find a totally different weather on the other side than it was when you're going up, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be raining in Kumar and it's gonna be sunny in Chamonix. So Mount Blanc has its own weather system, and it basically, dictates a lot of the weather outside of that area. There's all these little microclimates that are around. Really, it's a good point. So just because it's raining in one place doesn't mean it's raining all over the TMB.
Exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned already a little bit about some of the gear to take to the TMB, but can you specify some, give some information about what to pack?
Yeah, so I talked about what to wear. You should have poles for sure. I know some people don't like hiking with poles, but if you're gonna have any snow, you want to have poles. And it's just better for your knees. It's a personal preference, but I definitely recommend poles. If you're going early in the season, like I said, you should have micro spikes. You should have good boots. Some people actually like hiking in trail shoes. I like hiking in trail shoes. That's certainly fine as long as there's no snow on the ground. You don't really need a hard boot where you're going to have crampons. But some people like that. I find them to be a little uncomfortable to hike that long. So the most comfortable boot or shoe you get, the better, right? So, and it shouldn't be the first time. I made a mistake a few years back of hiking boots that I bought right before the hike, and I ended up using different trail shoes because I just didn't like them. So make sure you have your boots worn in, and then you know what you're going to get into with your footwear. That's my suggestion.
Right. I think we forgot to mention the box lunches as well. They can buy at the huts or accommodation sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Because people they think about, should I bring food with me or not? Will there be like a grocery store or something?
Yeah, I think I mentioned, but I'll mention again. There are grocery stores in all the valleys. So again, that's Chamonix, Les Souches, Les Contamines, Courmayeur, La Fouille, Champagne. So all those 6 places will have ATMs and also grocery stores. And then at all of the huts, they'll have a packed lunch that costs anywhere from like 10 to 15 euros that are available for you to buy. So we sell our tours on half board basis, which is basically dinner and breakfast in all locations except for Chamonix and Courmayeur, where there are tons of restaurants available. So yeah, people don't generally have to worry about finding food on the trail.
Right. So also regarding baggage transfers, so some people they want to do the whole tour with their backpacks, but some people just want to have some comfort while hiking. So how does that work?
Well, the baggage transfers are optional with us, and you can even do it yourself if you want to. But baggage transfers just make it easier for you to carry multiple sets of clothes. You don't. I mean, it's a luxury in hiking that you can wear a fresh set of clothes when you get to the hut at night. So. That's one of the advantages of the baggage transfer. Basically, you have a soft duffel bag. You can have up to 15 kilos, which is about 33 pounds, inside of the duffel bag, and it'll just meet you at the next place. So you drop off the bags at 8 a.m., and then by 5 p.m., at most places, they'll be delivered already. Occasionally, it's at 5:30 or 6:30 when it's the huts. But in most cases, it's waiting for you when you get to the hut. There are a few locations where baggage transfers aren't possible. For example, Refuge de la Croix de Bonhomme, Cave du Combal, Refugio Elisabetta, and Refugio Bonatti. It's not possible to have baggage transfers there because there's no road access, and so they can't get up there.
Right. There's also an area just after Refuge de la Croix also that you can hardly find cell phone service. And it's also a part where it's very tricky to get by using public transport or also private transport, right?
Yeah, that area from Les Chapeaux to Courmayeur, it's more one of the more wild areas there. So after you leave Lake Contamine, you're going to have very little cell service there in that area. Yeah, the area between Les Chapeaux to Refuge Les Mottes, there's a road there, and after that, you're going to have to go over Col de la Seine, which separates France from Italy, and until you get down to Cabin du Cambol. So basically that stretch from Refuge Les Mottes to Cabin du Cambol, which is maybe 4.5, 5 hours or so, there's not any road access. So to get from Les Chapeaux to Courmayeur, there's no public transport, or it's very difficult public transport. So usually you have to take a taxi, and that could be a 300 euro taxi. So that's an area to just know that's a little more off the grid than some of the other locations.
Right. Okay, I was just thinking about something. I don't know if you mentioned hiking poles, especially for people that have bad knee. And so what is your experience using hiking poles for hiking?
Yeah, I did mention hiking poles. I recommend hiking poles for sure, but it's a personal choice. But if there's going to be any snow, I would rather not say it's a recommendation. It's kind of a necessity. So, yeah, that I highly recommend hiking poles.
Right. So who's here with us right now? We have Eric. We have Michelle. Thank you for the questions. We'll get to you after we're done here with the basic conversation. So Drew, about Pygmy. So what can we tell the people about our company?
Well, so I think I mentioned a bit already about who we are, but we offer a lot of different services. We customize the itinerary to your budget and to your hiking skills. So some people want to have a very quick hike. They want a challenge doing 6 days, 5 days. I've done one itinerary that was 4 days, and basically they were trail running. And there's people that want to take the time and hike and enjoy everything. And, they spend 13, 14 days on the trail. So there's many places that you could take a rest day. I recommend Courmayeur and Champagne. I definitely recommend spending a day or two extra in Chamonix. We also then create a customized handbook with your particular itinerary that has elevation profiles and maps, information about alternative routes, route notes, transport information. We also give you a transport handbook, so that details when the buses are going, how much the buses are, what cable cars cost, what cable cars when they're running. We also provide you with an online app, so all of your itinerary is then in this app that you can just the same information as the handbook with elevation profiles and the maps. All of that's there, the route notes. We give you a GPS membership to Gaia GPS along with a GPX file that includes, not only the main route but the alternative routes as well. Yeah, we don't want you getting lost on the trail. We also provide you with 24-hour customer service. So when you're hiking, Rafael and I have a WhatsApp group set up, and anything you need, you text us. And Rafael is in Germany, so he's on the same time zone as you. Rafael spent summers in Chamonix as well, doing welcome briefings. The welcome briefings we'll be doing this year because of Mr. COVID will be virtual. But we are still doing the welcome briefing, answering any last minute questions you have going over the trail, and making sure that you feel comfortable and ready to hike. We book all the reservations for the huts and the hotels, and and the baggage transfers. We also book any extensions you want. We've done extensions into Switzerland before, and we also can arrange transfers in from the airport and back out to the airport.
Right. Okay, we got a lot of questions here. We'll get to them soon. Okay, we have our guests, I guess, right, Drew?
Yeah, it's time to meet Wes and Dar. I want to give them a quick introduction. Wes and Dar are intermediate hikers. Wes has done a lot of the AT trail. They've hiked in Nepal. They're globetrotters. but they hadn't done a TMB hike before. So I think Wes has also done the O Trek in Patagonia. So accomplished, but not I would say expert. Is that the right introduction?
Yes, we're here. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah. We can.
Oh, yeah. No, it's, we've done the Everest Base Camp and Kilimanjaro.
No, you did it. No.
So
Wes is way more, Wes has hiked more than I have. But no, I would say you described this perfectly.
Yeah. With the TMB being right at the top.
Sweet. That's great. So I wanted to have a quick discussion with you guys and ask you a few questions and kind of get to your experience and what you guys enjoyed, maybe some suggestions or recommendations you guys give the group members about the TMB too. So you mentioned some of those treks that you guys have done, and I'm just wondering, how does the TMB kind of stack up against those other treks?
The big trek I did before this was the Annapurna Base Camp in Nepal. So that was a 6-day up and 3 days down. Now the elevation was much higher for that one. Yeah. That put me in great shape to do this hike. This hike was very intimidating for me. I was afraid going into this because it was way longer and the elevation up and down, up and down. Annapurna, we went up for 6 days. We came down for 3. So it was fairly easy from that. But I mean, now having done it, hardest thing I ever did, but by far the most rewarding thing I ever did outside of giving birth, of course.
Yeah, that's one nice thing about a loop trail. You don't go back. You go all the way around and never see the same thing twice.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And also the views kind of change too. New view every day.
Every day. There's not a bad view on the whole trip.
Yeah.
The views are spectacular. The Alps are a special place. Spectacular.
Yeah, I also feel like the Alps are just, I don't know, comparing them to Rockies, they say they're a little more dramatic, more pointy, if that makes any sense. So I love the Alps. What did you guys, what was your favorite experience of the hike?
Every day was a different hike, like Wes said. Even though we were doing the same thing every day, walking for 6 to 8 hours a day. Every day was a different view. We would come across people we had seen the day before. We would hike early with the same people and then catch up with them once we got to the refuge. It just is the towns you go through in these little valleys. I mean, one of the towns we went through, I think it was in Switzerland, had a little gnome village in this person's yard, which I literally was obsessed with. It is the quaintest. I'm not even articulating it well enough. It is so special and quaint, and you've got a lot of time to yourself and to look around at the beauty that God's put in front of you. It's magnificent. It's a wonderful place to get yourself centered and realize that boy, we are a small speck in the world, but what a magnificent world it is.
Cool.
Yeah. To amplify that point, the nice thing about doing a self-guided tour is you're not rushing after people that are faster than you, and you're not pulling along people that are slower than you.
Yeah.
And you go at your own pace so that you can take it in as much as you want. I enjoy taking pictures, so if I wanted to stop and focus, I had time to do it. I never felt rushed. So you take it at your own pace. We started early, so we made sure that we could just linger at some of the spots and enjoy the beautiful ambiance. And I mean, every day is special.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good summary, I would say. Let me just pull that up. So this is actually one question I like to ask most people. If you had to only give one piece of advice for a hiker, what would it be?
For me, it's shoes. The shoes make the hike. If you don't have the right shoes, they're not broken in. Yeah. You're not comfortable. You are living in those shoes.
Yeah.
Even when the first thing that comes off when you get to the refuges are those shoes, but you are living in them, and you better love the shoes you're in.
And socks, right?
Oh yeah, and
socks are just as important.
Yeah.
And take it. The other small caveat to that is take it all. Don't walk to get to the destination. Yeah. Enjoy the journey in front of you. You'll never probably be able to do it again. So enjoy, take it all in. It's spectacular.
Yeah. As the hikers say in the AT, hike your own hike. Yeah. And that's the beauty of a self-guided hike. You can take it all in. You don't have to be worried about somebody else.
Yeah. So, what did you guys find the most challenging about the trek?
For me, it's downhill is always hard for me because it pounds my knees. Yeah. I had a partial knee replacement 2 years before I did this hike, so I was a little nervous, and I had that. Not only the shoes, if you do have any kind of knee problem, make sure you have a brace with you that you've used, you feel comfortable in, because you're going to be wearing it every day, because at some point in the day, you're going to be banging those knees going down. So the downhill was hard for me. That last day was probably the hardest day for me because I just felt it went forever.
Is that the one from La Bravante to Les Souches? Or did you go? Was your last day from Tres Les Champs to Plampras?
That was Dar's last day. It was supposed to rain, and so I didn't want to give it up without finishing that last leg.
Yeah,
I had no problem.
That's right, but it's hike your own hike, right? So that's it. I mean, you don't have to. That's what you wanted to do, and it's.
I had done most of it, and I thought, you know what? You go do you, boo. I'll be shopping in Chamonix.
It gets upside down real quick. The toughest thing, of course, is the saddles, right? But that's also the best thing, right? Yeah, it's hard, but it's so rewarding when you get to the top and you get the views and you say, I just did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can do it a day. That's the beauty of it. It's not like going up to the base camp at Everest, which is 6 days, right? So you can get the same feeling every single day that you hit one of these saddles.
Yeah, yeah. And the saddles, that was a new term that you found out of?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you learn, you never stop learning. Yeah, that was just the jargon or the lingo that I wasn't familiar with because, I usually am just a summit person. So saddles was a new term for me.
Cool. So what accommodation did you guys like? What were there any that you didn't like?
No, there's nothing that we didn't like. And for everybody that's on the video with us, the real nugget of gold with Pygmy Elephant is they got us into private rooms all the way around. We did not have to be in a dorm. We didn't have to share, living space with others. That was, even at Benatti, we got a single room. And we're not sponsored in any way with Pygmy Elephant. We just enjoyed so much what they've done for us. Gianna, who was a polished professional, a CPA, said as we were walking around, she had spent 60 hours of her time trying to schedule all of the hotels, the stops, the transportation. Now here is somebody who was, like I said, very accomplished, and it took her 60 full hours. All I did was call Drew and say, Drew, set it up for me. It was all done. And it was done very well. There wasn't a hiccup in the whole thing.
Benatti by far was probably our favorite for food. But as I said to you once, the best food of the trip other than Courmayeur was the first hotel we stayed at. The first day, it was a Michelin star chef, and it did not disappoint. I mean, some of the food will blow you away. Even though you're eating dorm style where we all share at a table, it's delicious. And let's face it, if you've hiked for 6 to 8 hours, I mean, honestly, I would have ate dog food at that point. But, all the food was delicious, and I'm not an adventurous person when it comes to food, so it was really good, and it was filling, and it was perfect.
Yeah, we did the baggage transfer, so all we had were day bags, and you're right. Every place that we needed to get a lunch, they just made us up a lunch, and we just grabbed it and went.
So, that's the other nugget. Get the lunch from the refugi. Don't question it. When they say, do you want a lunch? You say, yes, ma'am. Have it ready for me in the morning. It's a nice sandwich. It's a piece of fruit. It's a little sweet. It will fill you, and you will be grateful you have it. It is a must. And get up early for breakfast, because everyone gets up early and that food goes quick.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I was going to ask you about the food, but I think you just told us about it. That's perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, we never went starving.
Did you guys have a favorite stage or a favorite view?
Yeah, my favorite view was when we got up and we were staring straight at Mont Blanc. We actually saw people climbing. They were actually summiting the mountain. So, and you could look and you're like, well, here we are in Italy, and oh, look over here, we're in France. I mean, it's crazy. You're standing at a place and you're like, oh, that for me was spectacular. That day was magnificent.
I think you're referencing the Grand Col Ferret in between France and Italy.
Yes, that was my favorite.
I would say the whole thing's pretty special. You know, there's the way to look at it is there's not a bad view. It's all good.
Yeah.
So you know, you get up into the to the gradations of super and spectacular. It's all so close. You know, there's no spot where you won't be enjoying the landscape.
And how about towns? Was there any of the towns that you thought were charming, most charming?
God, we love Courmayeur.
Yeah.
Loved Courmayeur. That was by far that in Chamonix, where you start. Chamonix is one of the cutest little mountain villages I've ever seen in my life. It's so quaint. I'd love to go back there during the ski season, even though I don't ski, because I think it would be a whole different vibe.
Yeah.
It's so cool to be. All the places we went to were hiker towns. Everybody in there was hiking. Nobody was there like on some, you know, bougie vacation, you know, where they're spending time. Everybody was doing the same thing, getting their gear and going out. It was a really cool place.
Yeah, now we went in June, so you know, it was very quiet, and there was still snow. The snow is. I have very much enjoyed hiking in the snow. We put our cleats on, and it never slowed us down. You know, there's nothing like hiking in short pants and a short sleeve shirt.
Isn't that the truth? It's crazy.
In snow.
Yeah. So, did you do any other sightseeing in the area when you were there?
When we were in Courmayeur, we had a rest day. So we did build in that day where we spent in Courmayeur to do nothing. And we went to we took the tram up to see all of the Alps in their glory. It was spectacular. That was
special.
That was unbelievable.
So really. That's Skyway Montebianco.
That's it.
Yes.
Yep. Took the bus out. It was easy.
Yeah, very easy.
Cool.
That was really our only side trip.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your fitness and training? How much did you guys train to take it on?
Well, I think Nepal, when we did the Annapurna, that really that personally got me into shape, because I would go to the gym every day, and you lived on the Stairmaster because you knew that's what you'd be doing. You'd be doing a lot of up and down. So it was a lot of stairs, and just getting your legs strong. Your legs are your main component for this trip. So I mean, having done that Annapurna base camp, I did feel I was physically in shape. I didn't know how I would do for the long periods of times for the hiking, but I mean, we got through every day. Some days were harder than others, but we got through every day. And your little Bible that we lived and died from your agenda. I mean, that every day we saw what was in front of us, saw, you know, how long it was going to take us. And we knew, you know, once you start going, the only way to get to Chamonix is to walk there.
Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of a loaded question. You don't have to be a superstar. Certainly, I'm not. I'm getting closer to 70 than 60, and you know, I can do it. And the whole idea is it's just drive and a little, chutzpah. It's 1 foot in front of the other, and you don't have to worry when you're going by yourself how fast you make it. Some days Dar was half a mile in front of me, a mile in front of me, and I just get caught up. Dar's better fit than I am. So one of the nice things about your offering is you do it at your own pace. So if you're not in the best of shape, you can still do it and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You definitely have to. You can't just roll out of bed and say, "Hey, I'm going to do this." You have to prepare somewhat for this trek for sure.
So what did you guys find most helpful about our service? Was there any tool that you guys found helpful?
That GPS was our Bible.
Yeah.
That and like your agenda. We literally every night after we would settle in and take our shower and eat, we'd say, okay, what does tomorrow have in store for us? We would look, we would know, but having that GPS was critical. I think
GPS and the guide, right?
Yeah.
That all go together.
Yep.
We did take a little variant one day that we didn't mean to, where we followed some people instead of I looked at Wes and I said, "Where are we on the guide?" And he goes, "We're not on the guide anymore." So we'd gone, I would say 2 hours outside of what we should have, and we then did back to go back up to. That's when we went to Bonhomme.
Yeah, that was all our fault.
That was a long day, but God, it was a beautiful day. Yeah. We ran into people that had bikes on their shoulders in the snow that they had to carry. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. So why did you guys choose a self-guided tour? I think you touched on this already, but what was the reason for self-guided over a group tour or planning it yourself?
We do things better, just him and I. We do better, and not to say that we're not demanding people like getting a private room. I'm just too light a sleeper. I need to have quiet. I mean, it's not that I don't do well in the dormitory scene. I that's why I have to do the private room. You guys offered us everything that we wanted. You offered us any questions we had along the way. Once I started getting nervous about like the ladders, you sent, videos to me, which by the way, the ladders are not anything to be intimidated. I mean, I could see where you would be, but I promise you they are so secure in the rocks, they don't move, and you can get up them no problem. You guys, just any questions we had, you were there with an answer. We were blessed enough to meet you, Andrew, in Courmayeur. So, and we got to meet Rafael in Chamonix. So you guys, any needs we had, you fulfilled and then some. So it was a no-brainer. We do better by ourselves, self-guided, because like Wes said, some things take people 6 hours, I promise I'll take 8 to 9. So
yeah, just to wrap this up, I think it's all in your name. Pick me elephant. Small ideas, small things can make a huge difference in your life.
Yeah, and
you amplify that to a T. A small company can really hone in, make sure that they satisfy your needs, understand your propensities and the details. You're not just one person, amongst hordes of others. You are treated like an individual, and commensurate with that, it was it made it a great hike. It really was a good hike. Oh, by the way, we had 12 days of no rain. It was perfect weather. I mean, how do you keep that?
Very lucky.
That was
There was also a heat wave too, which wasn't fantastic.
Yeah, I remember that. There was a lot of snow, and then that heat wave came, and it was gone. It was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I just wanted to say thank you very much for taking the time out of the day to talk to us and to everybody else.
I hope they got something out of it. Don't forget, I have a video out there if you want to see our trip. It's on YouTube. It's Rollins TMB. It's RAWLINS, Rollins TMB. Just search for that, and you'll come up with our trip. It's about 20 minutes. It'll take you from the start to the finish. Also, just one other thing for your folks. The rest of the world is pretty much closed down. Tanzania is closed. Botswana is closed. Namibia is closed. These are all level 4 countries. There is no Nepal forget Nepal. We wanted to hike up to Tibet at the end of September. That's that's just so far out of reach.
Yeah.
So the TMB,
Do
if you
this.
want to hike this year,
Do this.
this is the one to go for.
Don't hesitate. Just do it. You will not regret making this decision. It's something you can do. I promise you. We're not young people. It's one of the greatest accomplishments ever, and the beauty will just blow your mind. And we love Andrew so much. We're going to do another hike with him.
Yeah, that's right. We've already got the Camino set up.
Yeah, you guys are great. I mean, it's fun working with you guys, so you make it easy for me as well. And I'm gonna send out the link for Wes's video, Wes and Dar's video. So big thank you again.
Best of luck to everyone.
Yeah, see you guys later. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think we're gonna switch gears now,
Yeah.
Rafael, into answering some of the questions from people.
Yeah. So let's start with, let me see here. Eva Lee, is there anywhere in Chamonix to get a COVID test before returning home? And should we add 2 or 3 extra days to the end of the trip to accommodate for this?
So hi, Eva. We've talked a couple times on email, and Eva's going to do the TMB with us. Right now, we don't know about the setup of the COVID vaccinations and getting a negative test. But that being said, there will be an infrastructure set up for that. There's so many people that will be traveling that it will be necessary. I don't know if it will be Chamonix, but I'm guessing Chamonix is a big enough tourist center that there will be a place to get a negative test result there, or in Geneva. So I think that once we get closer to that date, we're going to have a lot more details about that test. So what Eva is referring to is that most likely you're going to need to have a negative test to come back to the States. You might even need one to go in the first place, but you'll probably need one to get back to the US. So there will be an infrastructure set up to administer the tests and get them back. There's a good website that you can look at that has information. It's from the embassy, the U.S. Embassy in France, and I would watch that. I can also send out some links to watch for more information about the negative tests as we move forward.
Right. I just wanted to mention something here. I was doing some research while you were talking, and there is already a test center in front of the hospital in Chamonix. It's just about a walking distance from the bus stop in Chamonix Sud. So yeah, there's something already set up there.
Thank you. That's why Rafael's our boots on the ground guy.
Okay. So Swati asked, I want to know, do you take Solo Woman Tracker for guided tour?
Well, so for a self-guided tour, yes. We generally don't like to do self-guided solo hikers in June, unless you're very experienced. But we will, yes, we set up trips for solo men, solo women, solo anybody, no problem.
Right. So Tanya asked something here. We already touched that subject. Well, we can do it again. So is food readily available along the way?
Yeah, there is. So the food, one of the things Wes and Dar mentioned is get the packed lunch. You won't regret it. But if you don't want the packed lunch, or you have certain dietary requirements, I'll say this one more time. There are grocery stores in all of the valleys. So that's Chamonix, Les Souches, Les Contamines, Courmayeur, La Foulée, and Champay, and Argentière. So that's 7 actually.
Right. Shelby asked, planning to travel from USA in June. Are there travel restrictions from the US? From US,
well, yes.
Sorry.
Right now there are, and we don't know what those restrictions are going to be like right now. I would say in 2 months we're going to have a much better idea when May rolls around what the restrictions are going to be. But there's just a lot of unknowns right now about the vaccination rollout. So one thing to consider is the vaccination rollout in the U.S. is actually going quite well, surprisingly, especially compared to Europe. So I believe the U.S. is at something like 15% have received at least 1 dose, and 8% have received 2 doses of the population, whereas in Europe it's more like 4.5% to 5%. of the people have received at least one dose, and only like 2 or 3 have received both doses. So that's going to be a major point. If Europe gets vaccinated quickly, then we should have less travel restrictions. So we don't know for sure if there's going to be a travel season. We're very optimistic, about it, but there's a lot of unknowns right now. So we're monitoring everything for the next 2 months. One thing I would like to say that, we have a never lose your deposit guarantee. So if, for some reason, because of COVID, the variants are strong, you can't hike this year, the deposit will actually roll over to next year. We also offer the option to give 50% back of the deposit. So our deposit is $475 per person. And then if you can't travel, we give you 50% of that back, and then 50% is just used for a future trip with us. And a lot of people, in 2020, we had a lot of people scheduled to go. We had about 150 people scheduled to go. And this season, we similar numbers. If we need to reschedule, we will. But we're optimistic that it's going to go through.
Right. Hillary asked, what is the best way to train up for this hike if you live in an area where there are not mountains nearby? So just before you start, Drew, so aside from cardio and squats, what else can they do?
Well, so I live in Detroit, so there's not a lot of mountains here. I like to run. I like to do cardio. Those two things are super important. Like you said, squats are great. Any leg exercise is super good. But if you can withstand the weird looks from people, go take a backpack and just put some weight in it and just hike around anywhere around town, or if you can get out onto some trails. But put some weight in the backpack, and that will definitely help your core strength. Core is really important. So even though you probably won't be hiking with such a heavy bag, I would just put weight in your backpack and go hike wherever you can. That hiking is the best way to train up for your feet. Your feet hurt when you hike a lot too. So toughening up your feet is something that I would recommend as well.
Right. So if you also, we also have our e-guides. If anybody is interested in having some of our guides just to take a look at, we have a guide for fitness, another one from when to go to the TMB, and some other guides. If you want to have them, it's free. Just send us an email to this address there in the screen, and we'll send the links for you so you can download them.
Okay.
Cool. Who's next? Merle. Didal Refuge requires sleeping bags last year. Any sense of whether the huts will go back to providing blankets so that only sleeping liners can be used?
So that's a question that we're going to talk to our suppliers about. Yes, they required at least a sleeping bag liner and sleeping bags in most locations last year. We don't know yet if the restrictions are going to stay. That's another thing that's going to be told to us as we get closer. For example, Refugio Bonatti is one of the only locations right now not accepting reservations because they're still skeptical on whether the season's going to go through or not. Every other location is. Even Refugio Elena, I know that people have had a hard time booking, but we do have bookings with them right now. Each place will kind of specify what the restrictions are. I'm guessing there's going to be restrictions on dormitories as well. Right now, a lot of the places are only doing smaller dormitories, but the restrictions aren't put in place yet. So we're going to have to wait and see what they say.
Right. Swati asked, do you recommend clockwise or anti-clockwise hike?
That's a good question. We prefer counterclockwise, but it's a very personal thing. So counterclockwise is the traditional route, and you'll be going with the flow. So for camaraderie, I think going counterclockwise is better. And also, if you do go counterclockwise, you kind of save some of the harder treks for the end, above the Chamonix Valley. And the other thing is going clockwise, you actually are going to be going against the flow. So what that means is early in the morning, it's going to be great because you're not going to see very many people at all. But start around 11, noon, you're just going to be passing a lot of people on the trail, and that can be annoying to some people. So that's why we prefer counterclockwise. But some people like to have that early morning by themselves, and they like to, see a lot of different people every night. So then I would recommend clockwise if that is your preference.
Right. Tanya asked, do you recommend Diamond or DMX or a similar altitude sickness remedy?
No. Yeah, it's very, very, altitude sickness is very rare at 8,000 feet. I mean, that's as high as you're going, 8,500 feet. So you might, get a little bit of a headache one time or something, but in general, there is no altitude sickness. So I don't think it's necessary, unless you're very, very susceptible to it, and that that's something that's a problem. Many people have, they know I get altitude sickness, but at 8,000 feet, it's probably not going to happen.
Right. Michelle, do the box lunches have a few choices as far as what's included?
No, not usually. One or two choices. Some places they'll give you a vegetarian option and a meat option, but usually that's about it.
Right. Eva, do you have tracks to upload to Gaia?
Yes, we have the GPX files that we give you for when you're hiking.
Right.
So it includes the entire tour. So with Gaia, we give everybody a free premium membership, which is just like $30 or $40 for the year. And the cool thing about Gaia is that you can download all your maps for offline use, and you can actually download the official IGN maps, which are basically the standard maps, the best maps available in France. And so you can download those topo maps, the IGN maps for offline use, and then basically you superimpose the GPX file onto that offline map. In your phone, it doesn't need data service to locate you using satellites. So basically, you'll be able to follow the entire trail with in-depth topographical maps, even when you don't have data. So that's the cool thing about Gaia.
It's also multi-platform. So if you need to check anything else beforehand at your place, home, you can just use a computer or a tablet. And while you're hiking, you can also, of course, use your phone. Okay, Tom. I like to go in late August. What is the best way to work around the UTMB?
So late August, if you wanted to, let me think about that. So the UTMB starts usually, the main races are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then it finishes on Sunday. But they do have a few races on Monday, I believe on Tuesday. I don't know if they have them on Monday. So if you wanted to go around that time, maybe what you would do is you would go, on like the 22nd or so, start on the 22nd. And then don't be in Courmayeur or Chamonix during the heavy race days. So we've done that in the past where we've had people start on like the 20th and 21st, and basically they're not in the major towns when the race is happening. And, there's not, you're going to see more people on the trail in terms of runners, but it's not going to be terrible. So they also take a slightly different route in a couple of locations. They go down to Saint Gervais rather than going through Lake Contamine. But I would maybe stage it so that you won't hit Chamonix and Courmayeur during those times. That would be my suggestion.
Right. When is the earliest one can request a reservation for example, for an individual refugio?
That depends on the refugio. Some refugios, started taking reservations, last year. A lot of the hotels will take reservations more than a year in advance, but some of them aren't even taking them yet. So Refugio Bonatti is not taking reservations. Refuge La Flagère, Refuge Belichat. I think Refuge La Flagère just started. We don't do so much with Refuge La Flagère because we have people stay in Chamonix rather than in the Aiguille Rouge area. But I believe they're taking reservations. I know Refuge Lac Blanc is now taking reservations. They just started. But everybody except for basically Refugio Bonatti is taking reservations right now. So I would recommend now, if not earlier. So we've been, like I said, we've been taking reservations since October, September of last year.
Yeah, especially now that with COVID, it's kind of uncertain regarding travel, and if borders are open in the summer, so you better have your reservations done already. Okay, Erla, can you do the trip only in a tent? I mean, maybe probably camping, she means. And if so, is there a map that shows where it's allowed?
I don't know about a map, but I like Andrew's book, the Knife Edge book. So I'll give a shout out to Andrew. He's got this book, and in the book he has information about where you can the free camping sites and the paid camping sites. So that's a good book to look for. Andrew's part of this group, McClug. I'm going to butcher his last name, but Andrew is a great guy.
Can you show it again? A little bit steady?
Sure.
Yeah. Knife's Edge. Okay. Thank you.
There you go. Welcome. So there's some camping restrictions to consider too. So I believe over 2,500 meters in France, it's allowed, or is it in Italy? So we don't do any of the camping, but there's certain restrictions. In Switzerland, I don't think it's allowed to wild camp at all, but there's some biovac rules and things like that. So just check up on that in France, Italy, and Switzerland. They each have their own laws.
Yeah, there's a certain altitude level or something I heard about, yeah.
Yeah, but as we don't do the tenting, we are not
exactly
experts on that. But like I said, I would reference Andrew's book. It's a good one.
Right. Ustas, I live in Paris. We'll be doing my first TMB this summer. Yeah, you'll probably be very welcome. Michelle, how does the GPS work? Does it work on a phone or a separate device?
It works on the phone. So basically, you just download it. If you want, you can get your own premium membership without going through us. So it's about $30-$40 for the premium membership. You can get a free version too, but with the premium version, you can download the maps for offline use, and that's really important because that way you'll have the topographical information even without data. So basically, it takes a map and allows you to zoom in and everything on your phone using the app, and then as long as you have a GPX file, the trail will be superimposed on top of that map. Now you can create the GPX file if you wanted yourself, but you'd have to go in and plot everything, and it takes a while. We have the GPX file already created.
Right. Okay. Hillary wants to thank Wesley and Darlene.
Yeah, me too.
For the video, for the interview, and also she's asking if we can post the link for the video in the group.
Yeah,
Hillary, we're gonna do that after the Chatinar. We're gonna post the video in the comments, and also, of course, in the group. Yeah. Courtney is asking, is it busy on the trail? Are you ever alone on the trail?
Yeah, you can't. So the Tour du Mont Blanc is probably the most popular hike in Central Europe. So, I mean, you have to take that into consideration. It's a busier trail, but you do have some sections where you can feel alone. I've been on the trail where I was the only one. Later in the day, especially, you'll find less people. If you're going clockwise, early in the mornings, you'll be one of the only people on the trail. So yes and no, I guess, is the answer to that. It is busy. It is popular, but there are moments of solitude.
Right. Well, if you're okay with temperatures and you don't want to have a lot of people around, you can also choose to hike in the early September, very late August. It will be probably fine, right?
So the shoulder seasons are going to be less busy. So the area around June 20th to July 1st, there'll be less people on the trail. For some reason, July 1st is a magic number, and then everybody starts getting on the trail. I guess it's just a round number, so people say July 1st, it starts to get busier. And then after the TMB or the UTMB, usually September's a little bit quieter as well. I love September. It's one of my favorite times to hike. The temperatures are a little bit more mild, so if you, like you said, Rafael, if people don't mind a little cooler temperatures, September's fantastic.
Right. Do we need to pack toilet paper while hiking?
No.
I'll ask. No.
Well, I mean, you can't, right? You never know when nature calls, so it's not a bad idea to do it. But I mean, there's a lot of huts and infrastructure. So if you're not camping, I just bring something for backup. But I never needed to use it on that trail. I have it on other trails, but not necessarily. You might want to have it as a backup, I would say, probably.
Also, in our transport booklet, we have a list with all the shelters along the route. So some of them will definitely be open, so you can plan yourself if that anything goes wrong. I don't know, or might go wrong.
You should practice leave no trace. So as gross as it is, put your toilet paper in a baggie and dig a cat hole and go off the trail and do your business, cover it up, and then So that's
that. I think we have the last question here. Tanya, on your budget trip, it says I can choose to stay in Courmayeur and an extra night. Do I have to define this when I'm when booking, or can I choose this option when I'm walking?
Well, so that's difficult to do that. So when you make the reservations beforehand, you're doing it so that you can make sure you have a place to stay. So if you're going to now want to change in mid-trip, that'll be difficult. So no, you have to choose it when you're booking.
Right. So Andrew McClugish just said hi here in the chat.
What's up, Andrew?
Yeah. So those are all questions. Are there any other additional points you wanted to touch, Drew?
I think we talked about a lot today, so I'm really happy with the chat. It was really cool to see Wes and Dar again. You did an excellent job organizing everything, Rafael. So thank you very much for doing that. Thank you to Wes and Dar again. So it was great. It was a lot of fun for me. I was a little, I didn't know what was gonna. This is the first time we've done it, so I was a little about how it would go. But I think it went fantastic. So I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, great. Sorry if I asked anything 2 times. It's because I have to take care of all the technical stuff here, and
right.
Yeah. So the Chatinar will be available in the group after we're done, and so if you need to recheck any information, just go to the post and can review everything there. To contact us, I'll just place the image here so you guys can see how to contact us, how to reach out to us. So just go to our website or email or call us, and we'll be ready to help you. Right, Drew?
Yep, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, like we said before, we've done this for 5 years, so we do know what we're talking about, and we're very happy to help you guys put together your tour. So thank you very much for tuning in. And even if you don't want to take the tour with us and you just have some questions, please feel free to either message me on Facebook. Yeah. I forgot to thank somebody very important, Paul. Thank you for allowing us to do this Chatinar. It was really, really great that he did that. Paul has an awesome group. This group is great. He does really good job moderating it. So thank you to Paul for that as well. So it's much appreciated.
Right. And we will be waiting for you guys this summer when the borders are open, of course. Okay, we'll also keep an eye open for COVID news or anything, and just stay in touch, and we'll keep you updated.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good evening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.